Have you ever tried to speak a foreign language and noticed that you start translating every sentence from English before you say it? If so, you're not alone. In fact, this is a very common phenomenon amongst adult language learners. I would say this is a struggle so many people can relate to. That's why I decided to make a video about it. Today I'll explain to you why you keep translating in your head and, more importantly, how to fix it. So first of all, why does our brain translate? I want to start off by saying that translating is not a mistake at all. It's actually a sign that your brain is trying to connect new information with existing knowledge. So when you learn the word apple in Russian, your brain initially thinks that яблоко is apple. And by getting more comfortable with the language, so with Russian in this case, you'll stop translating the word apple and it will just become яблоко. You'll have this mental image of apple without English or your native language in between. So what I want to point out is that translation is very normal in the beginning stage. Therefore, translation is a part of your journey, but not your destination. At this point, you might be thinking, but children don't seem to translate. Why do adults do it then? The answer is actually quite simple. Young children are usually not learning a new language through another language. No, they're actually connecting new words to the things they see in their world. So when you're pointing to an apple and you tell the kid it's яблоко in Russian, the kid will associate the image of an apple with the word яблоко. This means that the kid doesn't think of the translation. They're connecting the sound directly to the object they see. But adults, on the other hand, already have a fully developed language. So when they learn the French word pomme or the Spanish word manzana, their brain naturally links it to the English word apple first. Or of course, if your native language is not English, you'll just link it to the word apple in your language. And this is completely normal because this is the exact way our brain is designed, because it's connecting new information to knowledge you already had. In fact, translating is not a problem. It becomes a problem when you stay stuck in the translation stage for too long. So why can translating become a problem? Because basically by translating everything, you get slowed down. Let's say you're having a conversation in your target language. There's an idea in your brain you want to express. But if you're first gonna put into words what you want to say in your native language and then translate it into your target language, it's gonna take more time, right? I'm gonna use a very practical example. Imagine someone asks you in Russian, что ты ел сегодня? If you first try to build the answer in your native language, you'll always be slower. And in some cases, your answer will not even be authentic because you start stuttering and second guessing yourself. Now, the big question is, how do I stop translating? There are actually a few methods I'm gonna explain you right now. The first method would be very simple and it would be learning words with images without translations. That way you're basically conditioning yourself to learn like a young child, because whenever you see a word with a translation in your target language, you'll basically link the concept of the image to the translation in your target language. Method number 2 would be to read a lot of simple material, because the more often you see structures in your target language, the less you'll need your native language. Something really important here is that you have to keep the material simple. I would also like to call this comprehensible input. So don't pick topics that are too advanced, but focus on A1 or A2 vocabulary, especially in the beginning. I really think by focusing on a lot of comprehensible input, you'll build some confidence that will help you later on. Method number 3 would be listening. And this is something I've been applying myself. If you listen to podcasts, for example, in your target language, your brain will start recognizing patterns at some point. I think listening is very underrated because it's a kind of passive activity, like you don't have to speak yourself. Method number 4 is very straightforward, but it would be speaking. By speaking, you'll understand exactly when you start translating. And you should definitely speak, even if you speak very slowly. And method number 5 would be to think in tiny sentences or even words. So instead of trying to say, today I had an incredibly busy day, you can start with something like, I'm tired, a lot of work, or just the word busy. By doing this gradually, you can build an internal voice. Well, my personal experience is that I've been studying Russian seriously for about a year now. In the beginning, I was focusing a lot on grammar and isolated words, which also got me stuck in the translation stage. I would try to have conversations with natives, but I got stuck, especially when I forgot a word in Russian, which would happen quite often. I would start thinking like, wait, pronunciation in Russian is something like произношение, or was it different? And I would get in my head and it would slow me down. But I changed some very simple things. First of all, I started listening to podcasts daily. And I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning, I didn't understand a lot because the podcast I was listening to was way too advanced for me. So I switched to something easier like beginner stories, and those really built my confidence. I also tried to speak Russian several times per week, and I'm not gonna lie, these speaking sessions were very awkward because I would keep forgetting the most simple words. But once I accepted that, it started going better. And there's one big misconception because sometimes people ask me, how do I stop translating? My answer always is, don't stop translating. Instead, become so familiar with the language that translating is unnecessary. And this may sound like a subtle distinction, but it's actually really important. Conclusion of this video is that you don't stop translating by deciding to stop translating. You stop translating by understanding the language. And I wouldn't say fluency is thinking faster. I would say it's removing the translation step. So I would like to know, do you also translate in your head? And do you recognize the struggle? Let me know in the comments. I want to thank you for watching this video, and I see you next time.